President Trump's massive spending and tax bill will now head to his desk after both chambers of Congress passed the measure.
Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill has passed the Senate despite drawing the ire of the president's once closest ally.
The Senate passing President Trump's big, beautiful bill today, with Vice President Vance casting the tie-breaking vote.
President Trump's sweeping One Big Beautiful Bill is poised to deliver a devastating blow to the electric vehicle revolution, potentially wiping out years of progress overnight. This 940-page legislation would eliminate the crucial $7,500 tax credit for new EVs, abolish the $4,000 credit for used electric vehicles, and impose punishing new annual fees of $250 on EV owners, while simultaneously offering generous tax deductions for gas-powered vehicles assembled in America. The impact could be seismic. Industry forecasters have already cut their 2025 US auto sales projection by a staggering 700,000 vehicles, comparing this disruption to the 2008 financial crisis. With China already dominating 65% of global EV sales while America represents just 10%, these policies threaten to surrender a key technology of the future to our greatest international competitor. Meanwhile, American automakers find themselves bitterly divided, with companies like GM and Stellantis supporting the changes, while others that invested heavily in efficiency fight to preserve existing standards. As this bill races toward a July 4th deadline, the question looms: are we witnessing the death of the electric vehicle in America, or merely a temporary detour on an inevitable path? And with billions already invested in EV technology, can America's auto industry afford such a dramatic U-turn? The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, all 940 pages of it, contains several provisions that could fundamentally transform America's automotive landscape. At its core, this legislation aims to eliminate or severely curtail nearly every incentive that has supported electric vehicle adoption in the United States. First, the bill would terminate the $7,500 federal tax credit for new electric vehicles by the end of 2025 for most manufacturers, and completely by the end of 2026. This credit has been crucial in making EVs more affordable for average Americans. Without it, an electric Chevrolet Equinox jumps from $26,100 to $33,600, while a Ford F-150 Lightning increases from $55,495 to $62,995. But the bill doesn't stop there. It would also eliminate the $4,000 tax credit for used EVs, effectively pricing many middle and lower-income families out of the electric market altogether. Adding insult to injury, the legislation proposes new annual fees of $250 for electric vehicle owners and $100 for hybrid owners, over 3 times what the average driver pays in gas taxes. Meanwhile, as the bill takes away with one hand, it gives with the other, but only to traditional combustion engines. A proposed tax deduction of up to $10,000 on auto loan interest would be available, but only for vehicles with final assembly in the United States. While this might sound like it could apply to American-made EVs too, the reality is more complex. As Cox Automotive chief economist Jonathan Smoke points out, to fully benefit from this $10,000 deduction, you'd need a vehicle costing around $130,000. Hardly the price range of most electric vehicles or average family cars. And perhaps most concerning for the long-term health of the EV market in America is the elimination of incentives for battery manufacturing and charging infrastructure. These provisions have been critical in building the foundation for a domestic EV industry that can compete globally. The automotive industry's reaction to these proposals has been notably divided, revealing deep fault lines between different manufacturers based on their EV investment strategies. General Motors, which has recently walked back some of its electric commitments, explicitly backed the proposal to eliminate CAFE penalties, stating, "The current CAFE rules are challenging to achieve, and real regulatory relief is needed, which is why we join with other automakers in supporting zeroing out penalties." Stellantis, maker of Jeep and Chrysler vehicles, which has lagged behind in electrification efforts, similarly supported the changes. Stellantis supports improving fuel efficiency, as evidenced by the range of powertrain options in our lineup. But the current standards are out of sync with the market, and the Senate proposal is necessary to preserve affordability and freedom of choice. Other automakers, however, particularly those that have invested heavily in fuel-efficient vehicles like Toyota and Hyundai, have expressed opposition to the complete elimination of CAFE fines. This division highlights how the bill could create winners and losers within the industry based on previous strategic decisions. Tesla, ironically, may be the biggest loser. Despite CEO Elon Musk's support for Trump during the campaign, the company stands to lose significantly if these policies are implemented. Industry analysts predict Tesla could begin losing money as early as fourth quarter 2025 if the bill passes in its current form. Industry representatives have warned about the bill's potential impact on America's global competitiveness. Albert Gore III, executive director of the Zero Emission Transportation Association, stated that the bill would be devastating for critical mineral production and refining in the US. It's a cruel irony that maybe the best set of policies to set up the United States to compete with China is being unwound. The Alliance for Automotive Innovation notes that China already accounts for 65% of global EV sales, while the United States represents only 10%. This gap could widen substantially under the proposed policies. Just think about that for a moment. Are we about to hand China a massive advantage in what many consider the future of transportation? The answer might depend on whether you believe EVs truly are the future or simply one option among many. The environmental implications of this legislation could be profound. The fuel efficiency standards that would be effectively nullified by zeroing out penalties have helped reduce US oil consumption by approximately 5 million barrels per day, about 1/4 of what it would have been otherwise, according to the Transportation Department. We very well could be in a situation where emissions and fuel economy are effectively not regulated in the United States as soon as the end of this year. This environmental rollback comes with economic consequences too. A study by Princeton University projected that if both the tax credits are repealed and federal emissions regulations are cut, EV sales in 2030 could be 40% lower than they would have been under existing policies. For consumers, the impact could be immediate and significant. S&P Global Mobility recently cut its 2025 US auto sales forecast by a staggering 700,000 vehicles, due to the broader impacts of Trump's tariffs. The forecaster called this one of the largest single-month changes we've ever made, comparing it to adjustments made during the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic and the 2008 to 2009 global financial crisis. But there's another side to this economic equation. The bill's supporters argue that removing regulations will make vehicles more affordable and preserve consumer choice. It's customers that are the primary enforcement of fuel economy. You don't need a law to tell consumers that they should prefer vehicles that cost less. Consumers already do that. This debate raises a crucial question. Should government policies push consumers toward more fuel-efficient vehicles, or should market forces determine the pace of adoption? And what happens to the billions already invested in EV technology if government support suddenly disappears? We're approaching the midpoint of our analysis, and I want to remind you to smash that like button if you're finding value in this deep dive. Your engagement helps our channel grow and allows us to keep bringing you this kind of comprehensive coverage. The political motivations behind these provisions reveal a complex interplay of ideological, economic, and strategic considerations. Senator Ted Cruz, chairman of the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, defended the elimination of fuel economy penalties as a way to bring down automobile prices modestly by eliminating penalties on automakers that design cars to conform to the wishes of DC bureaucrats rather than consumers. This language reflects a broader Republican perspective, that the market, not government mandates, should determine which vehicles are produced and sold. But critics argue there's more to the story. The rollback of electric vehicle incentives aligns with Trump's campaign promise to support the oil and gas industry. His pledge to drill baby drill was a central talking point during his campaign, and these policies would effectively slow the transition away from fossil fuels. There's also the matter of paying for the bill's extensive tax cuts. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that the House-passed package would add $2.4 trillion to the nation's deficits over the decade. Finding ways to offset this cost has led Republicans to target programs established under Democratic administrations, including green energy initiatives. Perhaps most tellingly, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick stated that sectoral tariffs like those being implemented on the auto industry are fundamentally strategic in nature. This implies they are designed to facilitate reshoring production of key industries, rather than simply serve as revenue drivers. Only about half of the vehicles sold in the United States are manufactured domestically, a decline that jeopardizes our domestic industrial base and national security, the White House has said. This framing of auto policy as a matter of national security and industrial strategy suggests that beyond ideological considerations, the administration views these changes as part of a broader effort to rebuild America's manufacturing base, even if that means sacrificing progress in electric vehicle technology. The Senate is currently working through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, with Republicans pushing to meet Trump's July 4th deadline. If passed by the Senate, it would return to the House for a final vote before reaching the president's desk. However, the path to passage isn't certain. The bill has faced opposition from some Republican senators concerned about its impact on healthcare access and the federal deficit. The late Saturday procedural vote passed by a narrow 51-49 margin, with Senators Tom Tillis and Rand Paul voting against it. Even if the bill passes, some analysts believe the EV industry could adapt and survive, albeit at a slower pace of growth. As it stands, it feels like the next decade is going to be bumpy for US EV manufacturers and owners. Battery technology continues to improve and costs are falling, potentially making electric vehicles more competitive even without government subsidies. The International Council on Clean Transportation found that by the end of the decade, electric vehicles capable of traveling more than 300 miles on a charge would cost the same as or less than similar cars with combustion engines, even without incentives. Advanced technologies like solid-state batteries, which allow for faster charging and longer range, are also edging closer to commercial viability. BMW and Mercedes-Benz have both been testing prototypes with this technology. For consumers considering an electric vehicle purchase, the message is clear. Act sooner rather than later if you want to take advantage of existing incentives. The window may be closing rapidly. For the auto industry, the challenge will be navigating an uncertain policy landscape while making long-term investment decisions. Companies that have already committed billions to electric vehicle technology may need to recalibrate their strategies or find ways to make EVs viable without government support. And for America as a whole, the question remains whether these policy changes will strengthen domestic manufacturing and energy independence as intended, or whether they will cede leadership in a key technology of the future to international competitors, particularly China. It's clear that America's auto industry stands at a crucial crossroads, and the One Big Beautiful Bill Act represents not just a change in policy, but potentially a fundamental shift in the direction of American transportation and manufacturing. Whether this shift will prove beneficial in the long run depends largely on your perspective. If you believe electric vehicles represent the inevitable future of transportation, these policies might appear as a damaging setback that hands advantages to international competitors. If you view EVs as just one option among many, with internal combustion engines remaining viable for decades to come, these changes might seem like a necessary correction to overreaching government mandates. What's certain is that the decisions being made in Washington right now will have far-reaching consequences for American consumers, workers, manufacturers, and the environment for years to come. The electric vehicle dream isn't necessarily dead, but it may be facing its greatest test yet. If you found this video valuable, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the new Diplomat, and share this content with others who might be interested. Your support helps us continue to bring you these in-depth analyses of the most important issues of our time. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.